What's up, guys? I'm Matt Reisinger,
And I'm Jason McDonald.
and the Build Show is on the road today. Check out this incredible Portland, Maine job site. Jason's gonna give us a full tour. Let's get going. All right, y'all, beautiful Portland, Maine. Dude, you dialed up some beautiful weather for us, Jason.
Yeah, it couldn't have picked a better day, really, to stop by. So.
For sure, and what a gorgeous house. I like this. So what's going on here? It looks like you've got a big house and a small house that are sort of partially connected. What are you building here?
We decided, because the previous house that was here before was a 2-unit, we decided to capitalize on it.
Okay.
And so we stuck with the 2-unit. And they kind of wanted to have the separate apartment structure just for one of their parents when the time came to move in. So
Gotcha.
Multi-generational living, you know.
And did you get, how early did you get involved in this project? Did you have a project team to start with on this, or did
Yeah.
you get pulled in later?
We put together a team right near the start of it, and it was us, Sylvain and 70 Builders, along with Bryburn Architecture, and we also brought in ADP Engineering.
Okay.
And so along with the clients, we kind of all got together, and it really was a design build from the start.
That's awesome.
So,
Now,
yeah.
I suspect being right on the water, you get some more harsh conditions that I deal with being an inland Texas guy, don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Extremely high winds coming off of the water, especially because we're on top of a little bit of a hill, so that wind compresses, increases velocity. So we were dealing with quite a few different issues here.
And some airport noise with the plane flying over us
Airport
right now.
noise, and then in Maine, a lot of times we deal, especially on the ocean, we deal with a lot of ledge and having to blast, things like that. Here was the exact opposite. We started digging, and it was all glacial marine clay, and it was like a 1980s waterbed if you were to walk on it. So it's pretty interesting. So,
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
How'd you deal with that? What'd you do with all that for this foundation?
So we ended up bringing in a geotechnician scientist to study the soils, take some core samples, and then we ended up going with helical piles that are essentially a large screw that gets driven down with a machine that almost looks like a combination of a mini excavator and a skid steer.
Yeah.
And they drive those pilings down, twist them until they reach a certain torque rating. And then from there, we were able to create a grade beam for our footing.
Oh man, that's
and then
crazy.
Went up from there.
And how did you tie the grade beam to, I think of that screw pile as maybe just a post sticking out of metal. How'd you tie those together?
Yeah, so they have galvanized metal caps that get welded on, and then we took some rebar and chopped it into 24-inch lengths and welded those on top of the caps, and then we tied in all of our rebar to that.
Gotcha.
Along with hoops.
Okay, so you've got piles, then you've got a concrete footing, and then I'm guessing you start laying your Nudura ICF block right on top of that, huh?
Yeah. We just started drilling and pinning rebar, and then started stacking them just like Legos. So.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And now you've got a super insulated foundation. Also walkout down in the basement like we just toured a minute ago. And I suspect a big part of this house, both architecturally and also to meet both your crazy cold climate and probably some noise issues, are these EAS windows, right? European Architectural Supply.
Exactly. Working with EAS and along with Performance Building Supply.
Performance Building Supply is here local to you? And
they are
Portland?
our local distributor. So we worked along with both Patrick at EAS and Steve Constantino at Performance Building Supply. So they also became part of the team as things progressed.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
And look at that view, man. Holy cow.
Yeah, not a bad view. That's the old port of Portland right there. So,
now how did you deal with, I'm guessing the steel that's in here is probably to deal with the wind loads, right? But that steel being right on the outside of your building in a super cold climate, you could have some condensation issues. Is there any insulation on the other side of that steel?
Yeah, so on the exterior, we initially started by packing out the web with some foam insulation. And then from there, we went with the Huber Zip R sheathing. We went with an R12 prior to installing that, for shear strength, wherever we had walls, which there isn't a lot of them, we went with a 1/2-inch layer of zip sheathing to aid with that shear strength. And then we ended up creating somewhat of our own SIP panel by adding a layer of 1-inch polyiso prior to the Zip R12.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So it's
cool.
pretty tight. So we're not dealing with any condensation issues with the steel. That was one of our big concerns. We had to have moment frames and some wind bracing.
That's pretty cool. So if I look at the building and I see this big green zip building, if you peeled back those layers, there's another big green zip building really underneath there.
Exactly.
But then you added 1 inch of foam plus the Zip R. So you've got probably, R19 or so exterior insulation?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yep.
Maybe R20?
19.67, something like that.
Almost 20 on the full
20.
outside. I think that self-made SIPs panel is pretty cool. That's a neat design.
It is, combats thermal bridging. So wherever we had some PSL posts or steel,
like in the corner
it just
here.
eliminates any issues that you would typically have in the old school buildings that we would see.
Now, with wind loads here, though, I'm seeing a little bit of steel, but not that much, really. Talk to me about steel in this house.
So yeah, that was part of the beginning process, kind of creating that team, the initial design and the initial engineer that was on the project. There was too much steel. We wanted to reduce it and just put steel where we wanted it. And then really, we're builders, we're carpenters, so we want to work with wood as much as possible and just do steel where we need it for moment frames and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing also that these doors probably have some special features to make them a little more wind load rated, because look, when you open this door, you're probably going right into the face of the wind.
Exactly. So we have triple pane windows here, and then they've added some wind bracing within the structure as well to aid with that wind load speed.
Yeah, the rep dropped off this cutaway for us, which is the same system as your door, and I thought this is pretty cool. So this is an all aluminum door, but it's thermally broken. And if you look at this cutaway here, you can see some really cool things. This is some type of composite material right here that's separating this outside and this inside, or I guess vice versa. Here's the out and here's the in. So we've got that thermal break, and that continues over here to this, and so that's giving this aluminum here some amount of insulation value before we hit the inside aluminum. Then you've got the triple glazing going on, and then here's something really cool too. If you look at where these two doors come together, you've got this kind of double U-shape action. So you've got a brush seal, which is going to keep water out of this cavity and challenge this less. Then you've got a gasket here, you've got a gasket here, and here, and here. So you actually have 4 gaskets plus 2 brush seals. And that means that this door is really going to be able to take some serious water load. Oh, I forgot to mention too, because of the wind load, the engineers at EAS also added this right here, which is some solid aluminum pieces. There's 4 of them here. So as the wind pushes against this door, it's able to take it. And my understanding is that this door actually has a DP80 rating, which is some serious rating for both wind and water. That's well over 100 mile an hour rating.
Exactly, and you need it in this location.
Yeah, you definitely need it in this location.
Yep.
That's pretty wild. Let's go upstairs, because I'd actually like to talk a little bit about the roof deck. We'll meet y'all upstairs. Jason, these stairs are a little squeaky, brother.
Yep, these are just in place for temporary purposes. In the end, we'll have a beautiful steel view rail stair system. So
how about that? That's cool.
I
was teasing about the squeakiness. I knew that was the case.
Oh, no worries.
Talk to me about install on these windows. I mean, this is some serious weight. These are some big openings. What was that like?
Yeah, just getting the windows to the site and getting them into place, that's a feat in itself. But fortunately, Patrick's crew at EAS helped moving them onto site and also aided in the install.
That's cool.
As well. So yeah.
My understanding is these frames were all shipped without glass.
Yes.
And then this is a dry glaze system. I should have showed it on the mock-up downstairs. But there's a gasket right on the inside here that you pull out this gasket, and then this aluminum piece rolls out, and then this whole piece of glass could be changed if needed.
Yeah,
That's pretty sweet.
exactly.
That's cool.
They have a pretty sweet suction cup set up, so we were able to lift the panels up with that, and then once we got them in up here, we kind of all muckled on and dropped them into place.
That's
pretty
awesome.
simple.
Now talk to me about this Ventrum tape on the outside, that Sega tape, because that freaks out an American builder a little bit, seeing tape on all four sides like you're building a submarine window, doesn't it?
It does. Fortunately, Sega tapes, the Ventrum product, they're UV stable as well as vapor open. So you still, it allows the window to breathe, but keeps the water out. But really, we started with the zip stretch tape on the sill.
Okay, down
and
here.
then we intend to cut that back, do some double-sided tape, and lift that up to create our back dam.
Okay, so you're going to back dam them still, but one thing that's interesting about these windows is they're of far higher standards in the European windows than some of the American manufacturers, and these guys, they're not made to leak. They are made incredibly well. So when you tape them on the outside, it freaks us out. We're so used to having an outlet for water out of the pan.
Exactly.
But you're not doing that with these windows.
No, yeah, the barrier method of taping has kind of been on its way out for quite some time now.
And here we're bringing it back.
And we're bringing it back with the Ventrum. It still allows that water to escape, but these windows, they do not leak, you know, and any water is handled and channeled through the weep holes.
Yeah, they've got true weeps on the outside that you need to make sure are clear.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Talk to me about your insulation strategy. I mean, with this zip fully taped, I even noticed you kind of did my zip 2.0 method with some tape. These walls are going to be really airtight.
They are extremely airtight, so we won't have any issues with condensation or anything due to the thickness of the foam on the exterior.
Yeah.
So our plan is to install rock wool both in the walls and the ceilings.
Okay.
And then use the soundproof rock wool in the bathrooms and bedrooms as well.
Got it. Yeah, so R20 before you even get to the inside cavity.
Exactly.
And then you and I were talking earlier, your rooftop deck that we were on earlier in the intro, that's getting a big, thick polyiso rooftop before your, are you doing a TPO roof up there?
We are doing a rubber roof, actually.
Rubber roof, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. How many inches will you have of rooftop insulation?
So at the thickest, it'll be between 8.5 and 9 inches, and then it tapers down to about 6 inches.
So you have like R50 or so on the roof deck-ish?
Yes, without
Something
even
like that?
installing the rock wool. Yeah.
Dang.
So pretty tight.
That's additional, but the bulk heavy load is on the roof. So you've done a really nice job of doing a full exterior blanket. That's something that I love seeing people do, especially up here in the north where there could be condensation issues. So great job on that.
Yeah.
I wonder what your blower door score is going to be on this house. Do you have any idea? Have you done one?
Good
that's
question.
similar
We haven't done one here yet, but we intend to once we finish all of our taping details on the exterior.
Yeah.
So we plan on doing it. So
I bet easy under 1.5.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But will you get to passive house standard 0.6 or not? We'll see, right?
That's the goal. So we'll see. Yeah, we like
awesome.
to do at least 3 throughout the project. So
Killer.
Yeah.
Are you going for a rating on this project?
We are looking at going, not necessarily passive house, we are looking to go for the net zero though, with the PV solar that we intend on installing on the roof as well.
Oh, let's walk these guys up and show them what your rooftop looks like before we end the video, because this second floor deck, I suspect, is a big driving feature for your clients. I mean, this harbor view is unbelievable. This kind of was shocking to me when I saw it. A staircase to a deck with no cover. What's happening out here to make this waterproof?
Yeah, so up here we plan on having it's essentially a large skylight. And that will be triple glazed. It will have glass just to allow light in as well.
So like a skylight that's maybe hinged on one side and then you can walk up and drop it again?
Yeah, and it'll be motorized, but also have a manual override if needed for emergency purposes.
Holy cow, that's crazy. Where'd you find that door?
That door comes out of California. The name of the company escapes me at the moment, but yeah, it took a little bit of search
Dang.
research to figure that one out.
I want to come back and see that.
Yeah.
And then what's the
cool.
configuration when you get up here? What's it look like?
So about roughly half of this deck will be the rooftop deck.
Okay.
And we plan on doing the view rail glass railing throughout on this
sweet.
side. The back half will be all solar.
Okay.
And then the apartment side will be all solar.
Okay. And how much deck space will you have in here?
Good question. Roughly about 18 feet in depth and 34 feet in width.
That's a pretty nice sized deck.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that'll be up off of your TPO. What are you using to elevate yourself?
Yep. So we plan on using the Bison ballasted levelers.
Oh, I like that.
So you can screw them down. You set up your laser and shoot each one, and you can just screw it down to get the right height.
It looks like a plastic or I don't know what it is, HDPE, and you can screw it and you can tilt and turn the top.
Tilt and turn.
So if you've got tapered insulation, you could still get a flat deck.
Exactly.
And I've used their deck system before that comes in squares.
Mm-hmm.
Are you using that or are you using something else?
We considered the deck option, but the clients opted to go for the patio pavers instead. So very similar size and everything, but a little less maintenance. So
killer.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Man, what a cool project. Before we end though, I do want to show these guys your basement because you got a couple cool things down there that I think are good tips if you're doing ICF. So we'll meet you in the basement. We'll close out the video. This is interesting. You've got some 1x4s. You've got just foam, and then you go back to 2x4s down here in the Nudura ICF. What's happening back here?
So in this particular section, just because of the staircase and the thickness of the foam, we decided to jump to a 6-inch core in this section to make a little bit more room to allow for some wider stairs. Then we jumped back to the 8-inch core.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we were on an ICF job the other day, and I forget that some people don't realize, everywhere you see this kind of weave on the Nudura, or we were on a Logix job the other day, there's some kind of plastic stud in there, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so my guess is that you've actually fastened these into those studs. Now,
yes.
Why the additional stud versus the no stud there, though? I'd love to hear your take on that.
For the most part, if you've ever worked with ICF foundations and you have hung drywall on them or hired a subcontractor to hang drywall, there's a lot of cursing going around.
Oh, yeah.
So it's they do work, but we found it's best for both the electrical as well as the drywallers to add some strapping of some sort, either 1x or in this case 2x, to help with the electrical boxes.
Yep.
And it just makes life a whole lot easier.
Yeah. And so will your electrician then drill between these studs and put a shallow box in, or how does that work?
For the most part, he's probably going to be dropping down from above.
Okay.
And so there's a little bit more wire. You can go with a full stud system, but I don't think you really necessarily have to.
All right, well, I put that extra stud in when it's super easy just to put these in. We gain another couple inches in the space too.
Exactly.
Because all this is, we don't need insulation in here. All we need is just a spot to run a wire in and put a box.
Exactly. And the 2x allows it, so if he does need to run it, he can drill through and then we put a metal plate over afterwards.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting. I didn't think about this originally, but these aren't pressure treated. You don't need PT down here. These are being screwed to foam. It's totally dry. They were smart and brought them off the concrete. There's no wicking there. So just a cheap 2x4 SPF is all you need to attach with.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. The Nudura makes for a great dry basement, along with the sub-slab insulation and a vapor barrier. You really can't get any tighter of a basement
that's pretty
than
sweet.
this.
I like it. Hey, before we close out the video, I'd love to know about this custom gutter system that you put in the house.
Yeah.
I think people probably have seen this in the video and are wondering what amazing craftsmanship is happening here with the gutter system.
This is pretty unique. So due to supply chain issues with the polyiso tapered panels, we did the temporary roof for temporary purposes. And so we ran a gutter down and went to our outlets that run outside.
That's awesome. So in other words, the peel and stick you saw up there is just to waterproof us until the supply chain catches up with your order that's been in for weeks or months.
Months at this point.
For the rooftop insulation, and then the roofer can put his rubber roof down. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Builders all over the country know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We've all been dealing with it.
Yep, and surprisingly, the peel and stick that we have up there is doing a great job of keeping us dry. So
Yeah, and projects during this COVID period, as you're finishing up here, my experience is they're 50% or more longer in duration.
for sure,
Which is
yeah.
super frustrating to our clients because they don't know why it's taking so long. So they understand, but sort of. And it's frustrating for builders like Jason and I because we make a lot less money. You know, if I expected my crew to be on a job for 12 months and it take 18 months, or for 18 months and it took 2 years, I make way less money than I did had I done a shorter duration project. So I feel you, man. I know other builders watching this feel the same exact way. We're looking forward to some normality again on supply chain, labor availability, all those things.
Yes, for
Brutal.
sure. Yeah.
Brutal. Guys, if you aren't following these guys on Instagram, fantastic builder right here in Portland, Maine. I'll put a link to their Instagram and to their website down below, as well as the architecture team. Beautiful job. If you're interested in learning more about the EAS windows, I actually have another video coming up where I'm going to meet the owner of EAS later today. We're going to talk about ordering European windows, what that looks like, and what sets EAS, European Architectural Supply, based out of Boston, apart from the other dealers that you might know. There's some really cool stuff coming up on that video. But if you're not currently a subscriber, guys, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on TikTok or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.